Okay, hi YouTube, Mr. Who's the Boss here. In this video we're going to be comparing Soul Sacrifice Delta on the PS Vita with Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate on the 3DS. So hopefully you can tell that on the top we have Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate playing on my 3DS XL, and then on the bottom we have Soul Sacrifice Delta playing on my PS Vita. So I mean, very quickly you should be able to tell the graphical difference. Both games are actually playing in the same lighting conditions with both screens on maximum brightness. So the PS Vita does have slightly higher contrast levels, but maybe not as high as you would think. On top of that, the resolution disparity isn't actually that much either. While the PlayStation Vita's resolution is more than double that of the 3DS's, the 3DS game is running at native resolution, yet the PS Vita's isn't. So that not only brings the resolution disparity closer, but it also means that the 3DS looks crisper just because it's running at the native res. So actually I wouldn't say there's much between them in terms of resolution. And to the 3DS's credit, there's actually not that much difference in terms of the graphics in general either. In fact, in some cases I would actually say Monster Hunter looks better. And that's simply because, in Soul Sacrifice the textures are muddy, the colour palette is quite dark, and the fact that it's not running at native resolution almost makes it look like a video being played on screen rather than a game itself. And graphics are definitely not everything, but in this case I would actually say that the 3DS game does look pretty much as good as the Vita game, and that's almost embarrassing considering the Vita is something like 5 times as powerful, and the 3DS has to render 2 screens. It's got the bottom screen to do as well, and so that's my opinion on the graphics. In terms of sound, both games have absolutely stellar audio. I mean, they've had massive orchestras playing lots of beautiful tracks, and they're both games worth getting if you're really into the audio. So now to talk about the gameplay, this is where the two games diverge a little bit. I mean, on one hand you've got Monster Hunter, which is, pure monster killing. There's no story, there's no sort of emphasis on anything but just, take a quest, unlock the next armor, unlock the next upgrade. Whereas Soul Sacrifice has tried to do something a little different. It's definitely not one of those sort of Monster Hunter clone games. I mean, there's actually very story driven. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's actually got quite a good storyline. Don't get me wrong, this is no like Final Fantasy in the story department, but it does just help to ease the grinding that is a result of just about all of these games, including Monster Hunter. So in terms of the gameplay mechanics, I think that Soul Sacrifice probably has the more varied sort of options. The fact that you can you get all these different spells that you can take on quests, you can combine them to make new ones, and there's just, there's a lot more variety in terms of the actual way you can tackle your enemies. I mean, Monster Hunter has, it does have different weapon classes and stuff, but every weapon in the same class feels identical because, they're all the same. Wielding a Rathalos hammer feels exactly the same as wielding a Diablos hammer, just because all the motions are the same, the animations are the same, and the enemy reactions are the same. So I suppose it does get a bit more repetitive more quickly in my opinion. However, the looting is more rewarding, so I suppose that keeps you going longer. I mean, one of the main complaints that Soul Sacrifice, the original game, had was that it just didn't have enough depth. Now when you initially play the game, you're bombarded with new things. Like every time you do a quest it introduces a new gameplay element, and you don't think it's ever going to get old, but I suppose quite quickly, because you end up fighting lots of the same monsters again and again, and I suppose it doesn't really take the concept of offerings much further than just spells that you can sort of fuse. I suppose the novelty does wear off after a bit and it does get boring. Now with Soul Sacrifice Delta, they've not really fixed this, to be honest. All they've done is just added more. So in a way I suppose it is better, but I mean the game still is nowhere near as long as Monster Hunter in terms of, how long it's going to take you to sort of perfect clear everything. But don't get me wrong, these are both massive games with tons to do. Now one of the other problems with the original Soul Sacrifice is that it had lots of sort of battles in exactly the same environments, and the thing is, with the Soul Sacrifice environments it's literally just a room. With Monster Hunter it's a bit different. Although you will be returning to sort of previous locations a lot, they're more diverse because each area has sub areas within it, and I suppose different battles take place in different areas, and monsters move between areas, so it mixes things up a bit, and it makes you feel like you play a greater role in the battle because you have to actually hunt for food if you run out of stamina, or you have to find herbs in the environment if you're low. So I suppose that makes a more sort of fulfilling experience, and it makes you feel like you're a real hunter, whereas Soul Sacrifice you sort of just jump from mission to mission, kill the enemy, and then take the rewards. So again, this hasn't really been fixed in Delta because they've just added new arenas, and that, although they've just added tons of new contents, there's more DLC incoming, I don't think they've really fixed the main problem, which is just that I suppose there's just more to the gameplay of Monster Hunter. But I mean, as a standalone game, Soul Sacrifice is still a great alternative if you've got a Vita but not a 3DS. In my personal opinion, I prefer Monster Hunter. I think that the game runs better, the frame rate is smoother, I think the game looks pretty much as good, and the game is just a lot deeper, there's more to it, I think it's richer, the fact that there's integration between your hometown and the missions you go on and then you return, and I suppose it's all comes together in quite a nice neat package, whereas Soul Sacrifice feels a little bit disjointed, and it doesn't feel like you have as much control over what you're doing as you'd like. So that's my opinion on which game is better, but I mean, I'd be really interested to know what you guys think. I mean, do you think Soul Sacrifice Delta fixes the problems of Soul Sacrifice and is a better game than Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate? Or do you think that nothing is really gonna overtake the, incredible masterpiece that is Monster Hunter? And that's, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but yeah, that's mine. So thanks for watching, and, I hope you like this video, and please subscribe for more.